Well, last year we had our buddy Tim here for all of the fall TV shows.
Yep.
This year there are very few because of the writer's strike.
And the actor's strike.
And the actor's strike. But NBC had a couple in the chamber. So there are 2 new dramas this season in the fall, and they're both on NBC, The Irrational and Found. We're going to talk about them both right now. Hey guys, Dan here alongside our buddy Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hi, everybody.
This has been such an odd year for TV.
Yeah.
We were going to have you on for the Emmy, Will They Win, Should They Win? That was going to happen in September, and now it's been pushed to January. Who knows if it's even happening then. But last year, I had you on, and we talked about all the new fall shows.
Yeah, I think we watched like 12 of them or something like that.
Yeah, it was over 2 weeks. We watched a whole bunch. And I think most of them have been canceled by now. I think So Help Me Todd is still out. Quantum Leap is in its second season currently.
Quantum Leap is currently in the second season. I think there's 2 episodes out. I still have to catch up on that one.
Okay. And Alaska Daily, my favorite, got canceled.
Yeah.
East New York, another one I liked, got canceled. But yeah, anyway. So ABC, nothing new this fall, mostly game shows. CBS has some new reality shows, and they've had extended episodes of Survivor
and
Amazing Race, your favorites.
Yep.
But NBC, for whatever reason, had a couple of shows in the chamber that they said, let's hold this to the fall. And so we're getting, I don't know if it's full seasons or what, but they've certainly shot enough, I guess, to run.
I think they both have 12 episodes.
Wow, okay.
Because I think they were going to be mid-season premieres last season, and then...
Yeah, and they decided to hold them.
Hold them because I think they knew the writer's strike was coming, and
that was smart.
Like,
That was
and
smart.
I think maybe they had enough content to finish out the year last year, so let's not waste these. Let's hold on.
Personally, I thought ABC should have done that with the Wonder Years. They put that on in the summer, which nobody watched, and then it got canceled. I thought it would have been a big feather in their cap to have one new show in the fall, but whatever. But the point is, we're going to talk about both of these shows here in the same video, The Irrational and Found. The Irrational is on
Mondays.
I was going to say that.
At
Mondays
10.
At 10, and Found is on when?
Tuesdays at 10.
Okay, and you can catch up anytime on Peacock, as they say. So before we launch into this, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews, and thank you guys for finding this channel. I used to do weekly wrap-ups of TV episodes, and we would do those like in big 40-minute videos. Now, sort of sparse them out, 2, 3, 4 TV shows a week I tackle. I'm catching up on some earlier ones in the year, but I also try to keep a little current as well. Just reviewed the other kind of new show for the fall, which is Krapopolis on Fox.
Okay.
That's an animated show. Yeah, what were you going to say about Peacock?
I was going to say that currently, at the time of recording this, there's 3 episodes of The Irrational and there's 2 episodes of Found.
Yes. Yeah, why is that? Did they start one a week sooner?
I think there was they did a sneak preview of episode 1 of the pilot at some point.
Yeah.
Of Irrational.
Okay.
And then started both of them like the same week.
All right. Well, Mondays after The Voice is The Irrational. So I guess let's start there. This is well, they're both kind of crime drama series. They're both kind of in the same vein. They're both sort of procedurals, but there's the underlying thread, throughout each one. So this is based on actually a book, which sounds very interesting. It's called Predictably Irrational: The Hidden Forces That Shape Our Decisions, and sort of lending the theories, I guess, that Professor Alec Mercer, played by Jesse L. Martin, is sort of, going to that well in the show. But he is a world-renowned expert in behavioral science, and he is sort of in cahoots here with his ex-wife, played by Mahara Hill, who is an FBI agent, and he kind of helps her with these cases. But he has a mysterious past as well that we learn about in the first episode, a little heavy-handedly, I believe. But that's sort of going to be kind of an underlying thread as well, in addition to kind of their relationship as the whole and all of that. And I told you were going to do The People, and here I am talking about Jesse L. Martin.
So
who else is in this?
Like you said, it's starring Jesse L. Martin, who plays Alec Mercer. We know him from 8 seasons of Law and Order. Right in the middle, he was in 8 seasons of Law and Order. People who watch CW shows will know that he was in all 9 seasons of The Flash.
Was he?
Yes, he played what is the Flash's name? I forget his name. But he's his girlfriend's father. He was like a police officer. And then a lot of people probably know him from Rent.
Yes, Rent. The first times I saw him were the Rent, and he did Broadway as well as the movie, right?
Maybe.
I think most of the movie cast was from the Broadway cast. Yeah. But anyway, Rent and Ally McBeal was, I think, the first time I saw him. He was one of the suitors in later seasons of that show. So I've been a fan of his for a long, long time.
Yeah. So the rest of the cast, like you said, Mariah Hill plays Marissa Clark, his ex-wife, and FBI agent who like kind of gets him to do weekly cases, or maybe vice versa. He'll have a case that he wants to investigate, and he gets his ex-wife involved as well. Tavina Springer plays Kylie, his younger sister, who he's currently living with because he's separated from his wife. And then you have the other two main people is you have Molly Kuntz, who plays Phoebe, and Arash Dimaxi, who plays Rizwan. They are his grad students.
And I don't know really any of these people.
No, I
don't. Other than him, I don't really know anybody.
I looked up their IMDb, and it was like one episode here, a couple episodes here. It wasn't anything for me to like that I even really recognized.
Yeah.
So for me, I like the premise. I like how each thing, like, kind of like how I can like, oh, this is based off of this principle or this principle and like different things. I actually like many of the characters. I like the acting. I just find it a little bit too predictable.
Okay.
I can be like, that's the person who did it.
Yeah.
Halfway through the episode, I'm like, okay. But, I mean, I am kind of invested into the fact that, like, so one of the concepts is that he has burn scars on the side of his face, and he says it's like 60% of his body because of an accident or like kind of like a bombing fire that happened. And it's little backstory that you like.
Yeah, we learn about that a little bit more each episode.
Week, and I find that's probably the most compelling thing about it is that I'm kind of invested in that story. I like that we're learning a little bit about his grad students and their issues and their traumas and stuff like that. But the weekly cases, like, they're okay, but like they're too easy for me as a viewer to be like, okay, there's the killer, like, or
the
perpetrator, or this thing.
I'm completely with you on this whole show. I think that first of all, he's a great actor. I mean, he is so compelling to watch. And he's, I think, the main reason maybe to tune in on this show. But yeah, in terms of the concept of the show, I do like it. We've certainly seen it before with things like, Psych, or, I know you're a big fan of Castle. Yeah. Castle, a little bit in the, he's a mystery writer, and so he helps the cops, even though he's not a cop, whatever, with that kind of thing. So, but I like that. Yeah, that to me is compelling.
And his attitude that he kind of has, I never watched it, but he kind of like, seems like Dr. House, kind of like,
I watched House for a little bit. Yeah.
Little dickish.
Yeah, a little bit of a curmudgeon, but but I'm so smart.
Yeah,
and,
he's like, I know better than everybody else. Like,
yeah, a little cocky.
He's like, I'm going to do these experiments on people without their consent, and like, who cares type of thing.
So yeah, look, I love him. I love the actor. I love the character. But yes, I agree that, and I'm not even much of a CSI, but I don't watch a lot of these sort of procedural shows because I do think they're a bit routine. But yeah, even I was like, okay, this is, I can't figure out if they're trying to tip their hand, if they're trying to make it, because of course on Law and Order, I guess they kind of give you what's going on halfway through, and then the rest of it's whatever. I don't like Law and Order, but, it's sacrilege. But yeah, I just feel like the case of the week thing is the worst part of the show, which is not necessarily what you want with a show like this.
Maybe the third one was probably the best case of the week with the airplane.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
A little bit better than the other two that they had.
But I do like watching him, kind of unravel everything and, call this person out on stuff. And, that kind of face-off is always interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're going to watch another fourth episode and be like, give it another shot.
Okay. And, determine where you sit with it. For me, I think this is maybe not something that I will stick with every week. But the nice thing is, since it is a procedural, you can kind of, oh, there's a new episode of The Irrational. I guess I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And you could miss a couple weeks, and it really won't make that much of a difference.
Yeah, because the main underlining, quote, mystery of his backstory, I don't think you need to know. Like, if you miss a week of that little segment, I don't think it will be.
Yeah, because it's real piecemeal. Like,
yes.
they're not really giving you chunks. You know, it's like little drips and drabs every week. Yeah, so for me, I thought this was okay. Maybe even above average for a show like this, because I don't love the whole procedural thing. He is really what's selling it. So I leave The Irrational with a B.
I was teetering between maybe a C plus B minus. But I do think that his acting takes it to a B minus for me.
Yeah. Because I think the next show we're going to talk about, Found, I think has the opposite problem. There's a lot of bad acting in here, to sort of, you know, spoil my grade a little bit. But, so this is another, you know, procedural. Like Tim mentioned, this is going to be on Tuesday nights on NBC. And this is from our good friend Greg Berlanti, speaking of The Flash and all of that stuff. Yeah. You know, he's part of that universe. And this is featuring Shanola Hampton as Gabby Mosley. She's the main, you know, star here. She is a recovery specialist working with a crisis management team, and they are trying to find missing people, specifically those that are sort of, you know, not the ones we see on the news every day, aka, you know, the blonde white girls, whatever. So we're looking at, you know, indigenous people, black people, whatever, which is kind of one of the hooks I liked in Alaska Daily, is that they were kind of focusing on indigenous people. But in any event, so that's sort of her main focus. But she herself was abducted as a girl, and we learn, much like The Irrational is sort of feeding us little clues every week, we find more and more about her and her situation. This one, and I'll let you get to the rest of the cast, but there's stuff to talk about with the plot, but like I found this all the time when I was doing the weekly TV roundup. There's a lot of these shows these days where it's like the entire premise of the show is in the end of the first episode. So it's like, I don't know how much we want to even talk about, but I will say that her abductor is Mark Paul Gosselaar, and we see him in flashbacks, and we also see him in the present day. So I think that's all we'll say about that. So go ahead with the rest of the cast.
So, like you said, Shanola Hampton plays Gabby Mosley. People will know her from Shameless. She was in all 11 seasons of Shameless.
Oh, that's where I know her
from. She plays the neighbor.
Yeah.
Kelly Williams, she plays Margaret Reed. She's Gabby's lead investigator who's dealing with a missing son. That's why she's part of the team. People might know her from Lie to Me, all 3 seasons of that. The Practice, the first 7 seasons of that.
Wow.
And probably some other things as well. Gabriella Walsh, she plays Lacey Quinn, a law student providing Gabby with legal assistance. She was also held captive alongside Gabby. So that's where they meet. Arlen Escapeta, he plays Zeke Wallace. He's like the tech expert, and he's also dealing with his own childhood abduction that has given him agoraphobia. And then, like you said, Mark Paul Gosselaar, he plays Sir, who is Gabby's abductor, and what drove Gabby to basically be looking for the Forgotten Missing. People will know him from Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Franklin and Bash.
He works so much.
4 seasons of that.
Yep.
He had 1 season of The Passage that was a show.
I liked The Passage.
Yeah.
Right?
Canceled.
He also was on another Fox show 1 season that got canceled. Pitch, about the baseball phenom.
Okay.
I think he was, I forget what he was in that. The coach, maybe?
And then, most recently,
isn't he on Will Trent?
He was in four episodes of Will Trent.
Yeah.
So he was like a reoccurring character on Will Trent.
Yeah.
Which I do believe is getting a second
I was
season.
going to say, I think that's coming back.
Yeah.
On ABC.
Probably delayed that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I will say that I will probably agree with you that the acting is not as strong, but
from the supporting people, I should say. I think she is very strong, and we know her, of course, like you said, from Shameless. And he's great as well. It's more like not even necessarily the supporting cast, because the agoraphobic's okay as well, but like the people they interview, it's very Law and Ordery of like, you know, the bad school of being interrogated acting or whatever.
But I do like her team. They are complicated characters, and I do think they're already kind of fleshed out by episode 2.
Yeah.
You kind of understand why everybody's doing this. And I will also say that this show is not predictable. Like I've like, oh, maybe this or that, but then like they kind of each episode kind of is a little twisty as well.
Yeah.
And like you said, she has some dark secrets of her own.
Yeah.
So,
and did you, going into the first episode, like, did you know the hook? I didn't.
I think I knew the hook from commercials.
From the ads. Okay, yeah, I didn't really
it wasn't like
read into it.
As defined as it as the hook is. So maybe I don't want to mention as well. Right. Because I think
I think it's a really nice surprise at the end of episode 1 here. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I agree that I think the cases are a little more interesting, perhaps.
I also do think that like the flashbacks of this are a lot more compelling and interesting than the flashbacks of Irrational.
I would agree with that.
Because this is, you're getting to understand why she's doing what she does. And the Irrational, it's nice, but it's also the fact that he can't remember these things, and it keeps going back to it, and he's slightly remembering some stuff. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh, this is the defining moment of his life. Right. But he doesn't really remember.
And you also kind of see sort of the same things over and over again, because as he's remembering. Whereas in this, we're seeing, you know, new bits and pieces. And I think it was in the second episode when we flash back to like her like 1 year anniversary, like birthday. That was like harrowing, you know, all of that. So yeah, I would agree. That's definitely more compelling.
And it's a little bit more compelling of a subject matter as well, because it is the fact that like, I think it said, like in the description I read it, there's like 600,000 people go missing every year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I mean, driving up the highway almost every other day, I see like missing people alerts and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is nice to know. I mean, I imagine that there are people out there like this that are searching for the forgotten missing. Probably not as unified as this television show makes it, and how easy it is for them to find people. But I mean, it's a television show; you're going to find them every week, right? But I will say that I think I'm more interested in this show compared to. Did Fox have one last year that was like?
I feel like they did.
With Book 'em Dano. What
was it called? The Missing?
Maybe.
Yeah, Hawaii 5-0 guy.
Scott Conn.
Yeah. And I hate him.
I think he's okay.
Oh no, I hate Scott Eastwood.
Yeah.
Scott Conn's okay.
Yeah. I think it got renewed for another season.
Yeah.
But, it was something.
Oh, it was, and I reviewed it horribly. What was it called? Missing Persons Alert or something?
Missing Person Unit.
I think I gave it like a D+. The acting is so bad in that show. But this is way better than that.
I didn't watch it, but the
Missing Persons Alert or something. Yeah.
But.
Oh,
like,
God,
based off
previews,
I was like, oh, I'm not interested in that at all. But based off previews of this, I was like, oh, that looks kind of interesting.
But we also never see Mark Paul Gosselaar as the villain. Yeah. So that's an interesting twist too. Yeah. You know, kind of to see him play against type. But yeah, I and at first I wasn't sure about the agoraphobic. I was like, okay, what kind of like hook is this or whatever. Yeah. But then once we like learned a little more, I liked that. And then also I do kind of like the idea of like this huge like computer setup he has. It's almost like the Batcave a little bit. Like he can kind of look up information, whatever, that way. So I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And I do think that as we learn more and more about these characters, I think I think I'll like them even more. After 2 episodes, I think I like her whole team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think this is a slightly stronger show than The Irrational, though the acting was a little better on all fronts. Yeah. You know, I think it would be even better because I think Jesse L. Martin of these 2 shows is the best actor out of all of them. Yes. So yeah, I leave Found with a slightly more positive grade. I leave it with a B+.
I leave this with a B+ as well.
All right, so two shows maybe to check out. This one probably a little bit better than The Irrational overall. But yeah, for a fall with no new shows really, these could be a couple to check out every week.
Check in on NBC Monday and Tuesday nights after 10, and both nights are after The Voice.
Oh, that's right. They do the Tuesday Voice, too.
So.
And Reba is a judge on The Voice. We know that this year. They've been beating the hell out of that in commercials.
Yep.
So there you go. All right. Tim, thank you so much for another wrap-up. I guess maybe we'll try this again in January when the mid-season shows come out. I don't know how they're going to do.
We just have to finish the actor strike.
Right,
We have some people to... act in all these scripts that are now being written
like again. Yeah. So all right, and thank you guys for watching, and we'll see y'all next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.
Bye, Roy.